I just want to ask you about, you guys do a good job of flushing the bad losses. Do you have to flush the good wins as well and take every game as differently going into game 7?
Yeah, we do. We had the opportunity to be satisfied last night, but today's a new day and a recovery day for us. We're trying to freshen up a little bit, get some treatments, and look at the game, take what was good, and try and expand on it. Work on some things that weren't so good, but we've got to park it. And as I said last night, every game is its own animal. It takes on its own personality, and momentum does not exist until one team establishes it one way or the other.
Is it almost harder to do when you've played so well and dominated so much as opposed to when you've been dominated the other way around?
Well, the revenge factor for when you haven't played well is a pretty big motivator. But again, I think this is a different situation. We're talking about Game 7, an opportunity to advance. Both teams will be ready. Both teams will play hard, and they'll leave everything on the ice. So I don't think there's any doubt about that. But I don't know until we play the game, really, to answer that question fairly.
The fact that you just Game 7s are going to have personalities of their own. What's your experience there, and what extra layer do you think that will add for your team's preparation?
Well, our team hasn't experienced it. It's been 10 years since we've been in the playoffs, so there's not a single individual that's played together with anybody here that's gone through Game 7, and it'll be another great opportunity for us to grow and gain experience as an organization and individually for players. A lot of players and coaches have their own past histories with Game 7, but you can't really introduce that to the group. It's about what's happening within that little culture that we have going in the locker room. You can't bring in the outside. You can share some stories if somebody asks you any questions, but I don't think it's going there. I think our group is just going to prepare for what they believe will happen and attack the game that way.
So what Lucic did in 11 can't matter to this group. What you did against the LA Kings can't matter to this group. None of that has any effect in your room?
Well, we'll draw on experience. If there's moments during the game, Milan will have a feeling that, hey, I've been through this before, and he may mention things. But if you think any of us are standing up on a soapbox and telling the inexperienced people, I've been here before, listen to me, it doesn't happen that way. We'll talk about our group and what opportunity we have moving forward as a group, and we get to make our own history. We don't have to rely on another team's, but there are moments, maybe during the game, between periods, where that experience can be drawn upon. But to think that we're standing up in front of the locker room saying, hey, in Game 7 against Detroit in 2008, we did this or that, I don't think we'll bring that into play.
The fact that you just won an elimination game has to be more relevant than that, though, right?
Well, yeah, because that's present. That's this group, that's this team. We were involved in a game where our backs were up against the wall and we performed well, but that doesn't guarantee success Wednesday night. We've got to start all over again, and we will go from a comfortable environment to a hostile one. But we've played there. I think this will be our 7th game in that building this year. We've been able to win there in the past, so that's got to give us a little bit of confidence moving forward.
Was there a point in this series for you, and maybe Game 5 I would point to, dispute it, but where, the matchup game was pretty significant, and there was some stuff going on between the two coaches to try and get the advantage there. It seemed like in Game 5 you made the decision to just to play your best. You split them up, but to play them as much as possible and to maybe not focus quite so much on the matchups and let them roll. Was that a conscious decision at that point in the series?
Well, you got to remember, we came out of Anaheim up 2-0 with playing against the match and trying to get away from it and that type of stuff. So we did have some success in that form. Obviously, at home here, losing 2 and the way that Getzlav played, it forced our hand a little bit to think differently. But again, those are games that have been played already. We can draw from those somewhat, but we'll also look forward to what may come our way in Game 7.
Do you like the chess match part of coaching in a series like this?
Well, it's not just this series. It's that way in every series. It's a different approach than the regular season. You've got to make fine adjustments. You've got to fix things quickly. You've got to mold the players' minds and mental approach to the game. That's playoffs. In the regular season, it's a long marathon. What are you doing at mile 1? What are you doing at mile 12? We should bring this into our game now. We've got to fix that. Everything's in place right now. It's just refining it, and it's addressing moves that they make and introducing things that we'd like to do.
At the deadline, Pete didn't go out and trade for a depth defenseman. He wanted to get guys like Matt Benning and Darnell experience in these situations. Have you seen Matt specifically? What kind of growth have you seen from him just in this series alone?
Expected growth. We have that much confidence in him and what he's done all season. I would say the word surprise could have been used early in the season, September, October, November. But after that, it was expected. He had proven back then that he could play in pressure situations. The more he got, the more he excelled. The tougher the situation, the better he played. Like any young player, though, you have ups and downs, especially coming from college when the season's so much shorter. But he has played exceptionally well when he's been given more, and last night was a prime example.
You see him as a second unit power play guy all the time now, even when Oscar comes back and he plays.
You know what? I think we're putting the cart in front of the horses right now. We had one good night on the power play. We had 2 goals. We'll see how things evolve as we go forward. For the most part, our power play's given us a pretty good performance throughout the year and has produced as we needed with a couple of quarterbacks that have done a good job. So we're not ready to throw that out the window and anoint new quarterbacks, although Matt did an exceptional job last night.
You tried several times through the regular season to split up Connor and Draisaitl, have them on different lines, and you tended to just gravitate back to that look because they were so productive. What's working now that maybe wasn't working at times through the regular season when you tried to split them up?
Just opportunity, moments, guys taking advantage. They've only played apart for 2 games. It's a pretty small, pretty small sample. During the regular season, they would go for weeks and then go back together and then get split up again. And it reminds me a lot of what we used to do in Detroit with Datsuk and Zetterberg. We would do that in San Jose at times with Pavelski and Thornton or Marlowe and Couture, those type of players. You have the luxury of doing that based on what the team needs, not necessarily what the individual needs, but what the team needs. And for a 20 and a 21-year-old to understand that and accept that, it speaks volumes about their leadership.
Okay, so you had a team in Detroit that knew how to win, and you guys coached it to some wins. Then you had a team in San Jose that always was trying to figure out how to get over the top, and you never quite got there. Now you have a team here where they've done none of that stuff, and you get to sort of lay down the path as it goes. What's the difference being Todd McLellan here as opposed to even San Jose?
Well, we don't have I think you answered your own question. We don't have a past here. We don't have a reputation for success or failure or whatever it is. We're starting to build that. It's been a decade. Our past was not even getting the opportunity to do this. So we're beginning to develop our playoff reputation, and right now it's one of the ability to come back, a scrappy group. Never quit, never die, and respond to adversity, and that's a pretty good reputation to have.
You guys
last
won
night
the.
You talked about this element of innocence that a number of you young guys, are experiencing with every game. Do you see that as a benefit for them heading into this Game 7? They don't know what to expect, whereas on the other side, there's guys who have gone through this year after year.
Well, I'm hoping it helps us. We have no other option or no other choice, but the group has been innocent. Like they understand the enormity of playoffs, and they understand the environment, but I don't think a lot of them quite get the scrutiny yet that they can be under. And I think Jordan is a prime example of that, where everybody's looking at number 14, and it's a tough thing for him to go through as an individual. But it's the first time he's gone through it, and he'll be fine. He'll leave his mark on the series, and he'll leave his mark going forward with our team.
Can you talk about Letestu? Why is he so? He's a fourth line center, and he's your shooter on the power play. I mean, how does that? Is there any other team in the league you can say that?
Sam Gagne, he was a fourth line player in Columbus and power play specialist this year. I'm sure there's others around the league, but Test is he's not a young man, but he's a smart fella, and he gets it. He anticipates well. He reads plays. He puts himself in a position, and I think if he was a 21-year-old or a 20-year-old, he would defer to others. He's played enough to know that if he does certain things, he'll have success no matter who he plays with.
And he's comfortable enough, even though he's a role player, to play with offensive star players. And a lot of guys, they get overwhelmed by that. Okay, I'm playing with some better players.
His skill level is way underestimated. Just because we play him in the 4-hole or the 3-hole sometimes, his skill level is way underestimated. Certainly not by us, but by a number of other people. It's interesting when your top players want to play with a certain player. It's telling you volumes about what they think of him as well.
He shoots the puck like a guy that's had a shooting instinct his entire career. Like he seems to have adopted, maybe opportunistic of him to do so this year.
Well, we needed, when we put him on the power play back in, I don't know what it was, October or November, we didn't have that trigger man with that unit. And we knew in the past he could do that. We gave him the opportunity. He made good on it. And it's part of his skill set is the ability to find ice and shoot the puck.
Todd, you obviously had to insert a couple defensemen last night, and other guys had to play maybe more than they were used to. Was there, somebody that showed, led the way with some steadiness and composure last night with those guys being out, or was it all six collective?
The group. There's a calming influence with some of the veterans that are back there, but the group as a whole gets the pat in the back, and that includes the 2 players that went in. It can't just be done with 4, and they passed the first half of the test. The second one's going to come on the road, and we expect the same effort from them.
How much did jumping out to that lead help kind of balance out the ice time throughout the rest of the game, maybe save those 4 guys heading into Game 7 a little bit, just a little bit?
Well, it certainly helped. Connor was at 16 minutes last night. We didn't need to run him 25, 26. Adam Larson had played 45 the night before and didn't need to be out there that much. So, the score helped the situation as far as fatigue and potential injuries. But also having a day off today was important.
You guys, I got
Okay.
Thanks, Todd.
Yep.